Selamat pagi or selamat siang. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Pallavi Pundir, and I'm here to introduce everyone to the second in our webinar series hosted by Asian Dispatch in collaboration with our member newsrooms across Asia. And today we're excited to present a session on dynasties and democracy, unpacking Indonesia's elections and the future of political power in Asia, along with Project Multatuli, which is an award-winning news organization from Indonesia. This year of elections has been nothing less than politically significant for Asia. We are witnessing mass protests, governments getting toppled, and new blood replacing legacy politics. We at Asian Dispatch are dedicated to covering news from across Asia for Asian audiences, and one of our key coverage areas is political dynasties. Dynasty politics has been a long-standing tradition across the world. India has the Gandhi family, Thailand has the Shinawatra clan, in the Philippines it's the Marcos family, and the US has the Kennedys. And the appeal of influential families in politics is rooted in many things, including myth-making, leadership vacuum, and local factors such as conflict, economic crisis, and so on. But there are strong correlations between political dynasties and stunted economic development and corruption in those countries. And across the world, we've also seen mass movements toppling these dynastic governments for these exact reasons. In 2022, we saw mass protests in Sri Lanka when people ousted the Rajapaksas from the government in the thick of an economic crisis. And recently in Bangladesh, which ended Sheikh Hasina's family legacy amid mounting accusations of corruption. But in the last few months, Indonesia too has been seeing mass protests that are centered around Joko Widodo, who rose to power on the backs of being non-elite and non-legacy in a country where the Yudhoyonos and the Sukarnos rule the nation. Today, he's being accused of promoting a political nepo baby in the upcoming November elections. His attempt already failed to install his youngest son for an election in Central Java. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. He's been accused of promoting a political nepo baby who will be inaugurated as a vice president on 20th October. Official data released by the Indonesian Ministry of Home Affairs the rise of nepotism in politics. Between 2005 and 2014, 11% of candidates for the post of district chief and provincial governor were related by blood or marriage to the district head, legislator, governor, party chairman, or the president. That figure in 2020 was 32%. So for the next 1 hour, I'm going to have an esteemed panel led by Project Multatuli's Mariani to take us through Indonesia's legacy of political dynasties and its larger implications. We have Pana Janviroj, the former director of Asia News Network and the former president of The Nation, which is Thailand's leading English language newspaper. Then we have Yoes Kenawas, the postdoctoral research fellow at the Institute for Advanced Research at the Universitas Katolik Atma Jaya in Jakarta. And finally, Mas Endy M Bayuni, veteran Indonesian journalist and former editor of Jakarta Post. I'll now hand it over to Evie to take it forward.
Thank you, Pallavi. Hi, morning all, and maybe afternoon somewhere where you are. Again, my name is Mariani. I'm happy to lead the discussion today. So the first speaker I would like to ask a question is Mas Yoes. Yoes is a political scientist and also an expert of dynasty politics, and is one of the most sought after speaker in Indonesia right now because of the rise in unfortunately because of the rise in dynasty politics in Indonesia lately with Jokowi's attempts. One failed, one successful, I think, and in 4 days we will see one of his successful attempt, installing his own son as the vice president. So, Yoes, could you please tell us more about what is actually happening in Indonesia elections, presidential election, and maybe a little bit, because we will have simultaneous elections for the regions, for the provinces and the districts. In November, hundreds of political leaders, and some of them also, I think, will be coming from dynasty maybe. So maybe what's happening in the national level in Indonesia, and maybe a little bit in the end, what's your thought about the upcoming regional elections?
Okay, thank you, Vivi, for your kind introduction. So when I started my research about 12, 13 years ago, I never imagined that Indonesia would have a dynastic succession at the national level. And this is surprising for me as well, because when we started, when Indonesia embarked in democratic transition in 1998, one of the demands of the reformasi or reform is to eradicate corruption, collusion, and nepotism. But today, what we have is the perfect example of nepotism, presented by the president himself, was touted as the man of the people, someone who came from non-elite background, and today, for the first time in Indonesia's history, uh, he has relatives who will compete in the upcoming gubernatorial election, and most importantly, the first time in the republic history, dynastic succession took place at the national level when his son, when the president's son, Gibran Rakabuming Raka, was elected as the vice president in February 2024, and in less than 10 days, I think less than a week, we will see for the first time the dynastic succession at the national level. And this is the first time in the republic's history. Even during the Suharto's regime, the dynastic succession at the national level didn't happen. I think Suharto would be ashamed and from his grave uh, for the success of Jokowi in building political dynasty at the national level. So what we're seeing in the past 10, 15 years, actually, we're seeing increasing dynasticism at the subnational level. When we here, I show you some figures of uh, the numbers of politicians who occupied elected office or executive subnational offices in Indonesia. These politicians are comparable to maybe Chavan family of Nanded in the state of Maharashtra, Redis of Kadapa, Yadav of Saipai, if you talk about Indian politics. So as you can see, there is a growing trend of increasing trend of dynastic uh, politics in Indonesia since 2010 to 2020. So the one of the reasons why these dynastic politicians keep emerging at the subnational level is because there's no regulation that prohibit dynastic politicians or that prohibit politicians to build political dynasties at the subnational level. Indonesia once introduced an anti-dynastic clause in its local law elections law, but unfortunately, the Constitutional Court canceled that clause, and as a result, in 2015, there's a explosion of number of dynastic politicians at the national level. So I just want to talk a bit about the impacts of on reformist agenda. So I will argue that the emergence of dynastic politics, the proliferations of political dynasties at the national level, marked the end of reformasi. I mean, if you look at the agenda of reformasi, the sixth agenda of reformasi, basically it's only the number 3 that held until today. The rest are crippling. The rest are getting weakened. We didn't achieve supremacy of law. We didn't prosecute the former President Suharto. Uh, we revoked the military's dual function, but then the president introduced law where military can occupy public civil positions. We introduced regional autonomy, but it's increasingly become centralized with various institutional layering. And most importantly, we wanted to eradicate corruption and nepotism, but what we have right now is the proliferation of political dynasties, and the corruption is still our biggest issue in the country's politics today. So basically, Jokowi, by building political dynasty, Jokowi maybe killed reformasi. Of course, it's not Jokowi alone. The structure that supported Jokowi, but when he endorsed his son to run in local elections and eventually in the national elections, I would argue that Jokowi has normalized nepotism. One of the agenda that he really wanted to eradicate back in 1998. And more importantly, when we talk about political dynasty in Indonesia, it's inseparable from corruption cases. And based on my data, there are 38 political dynasties who are implicated in corruption cases. And some of the notable cases is the Ratu Atut Koisiah in Banten. Her family, 15 members of family occupied elected office in the Banten province. And Ratu Atut, along with his brother, implicated in corruption cases regarding medical device procurement in Banten. And some other notable cases is Asrun and Adriatma in Kendari City. And what's interesting about this case is the kickback from the corruption was for Asrun or the father's gubernatorial campaign back in 2020. And another example is Agus Syafaat in Cilegon City, and it's also the same. His corruption money was used for his son's mayoral campaign back in 2010, I believe. And other than those three double cases, we also have conjugal corruption, where husband and wives who occupied public elected places are implicated in corruption cases. So yes, the rise of political dynasties is not only about nepotism, but it's also related with corruption, and it's halted the progress for Indonesia to achieve the reformatory agenda. With myriads of ethical violations, electoral fraud, and corruptions, we expect that public assessment towards dynastic politics to be poor. But apparently, majority of the people still rate the democratic process favorably. And what is more surprising is people show indifferent attitudes and even tend to support dynastic politics. And this condition is utilized by the elite to advance their political agenda, including perpetuating dynasty politics. I can show you some data later during the discussion about how voters tolerate dynastic politics. But now I give the space back to Effie.
Yeah, you still have 1 minute actually. So you can, you still have 1 minute. Use.
Okay. Yeah. So just to give some. So when I before I did my survey back in 2020, I thought will be allergic to dynastic politics because that's what's the media portrayed about dynastic politics. Dynastic politics is bad for democracy. But when I did the survey, there are more people who are more likely to vote for dynastic politicians compared to those who said they will totally reject dynastic politics. And this is a very concerning issue because people more indifferent towards dynastic politics, and more importantly, it's been used by politicians to build their political dynasties, and there's some sort of normalization of dynastic politics by because politicians said it's okay, it's not our fault because the system allows us to build political dynasties, and as long as the final decision is in the voters' hand, then it shouldn't be a problem. But we know that what voters have in the ballot box is just a final product of a very corrupt practices or very corrupt processes along the way. And if, with if you consider money politics, if you consider vote buying, etc., and actually what we have is just procedural democracy without substantive democracy. Maybe that's end my presentation, Effie.
Yeah, thank you. That's very clear and bleak at the same time, because I live in Banten, the one that's have like 15 elected family members in the province. Yeah, Ratu Atut. That's so I know what's Banten province looks like. It's not not a very developed province. So yeah, thank you, Yus. I will move to Mas Endy. Mas Endy, so what is your take about dynasty politics in Indonesia? About what will happen after October 20th, when Prabowo, which is like probably a little bit of dynastic as well, because he was a former son-in-law of Suharto, yeah, and Gibran is the son of Jokowi. So what's your take? And then maybe you can talk a little bit about what does it mean for Southeast Asia and Asia.
Thank you, Effie. Let me start with the last question about Asia before I talk more specific about Indonesia. I think Pallavi already mentioned that dynasty politics are everywhere in Asia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, India, and across many South Asian countries. It seems like it is part of the political landscape. It's more or less given that we have to accept that. And another question is, in how do we make sure that these political families do not become authoritarian? And that's really the challenge. And when I see the examples of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and previously Indonesia, with Suharto, Marcos, Ferdinand Marcos in the Philippines before, the question is, how did we allow them to govern with almost unlimited power and for a very long time? So I think that's really the challenge. Part of the problem I see is culture. I mean, we almost all of us live in very patriarchal society, and I think I'm not an expert on that, but I have a feeling that that's also the problem, that we have this what we call the Asian values, right? Deference to authorities, to power, and unwillingness to challenge the power. And I think those people, these political families know that, and once they're in power, they manipulate that. And it's look at the Indonesian election that we just had in February. I mean, in spite of all the reported practices of collusion, yet Prabowo running with Jokowi's son Gibran won with overwhelming landslide. So that's an example of even the people knowing that all the things that Yoes earlier mentioned, it's all out there in reported, but still people voted for Prabowo and for Gibran. Same thing in the Philippines. Marcos Jr., representing the Marcos dynasty, came back to power. And again, that's through democratic elections. And also, of course, what is happening in Thailand. Thaksin's family are now very much in charge of the country. So I'm kind of wondering how did this happen in 3 countries that have been a democracy. Philippines was the early democracy that toppled the Marcos, and then for not brief, but for sometimes for I think about 2 decades they were remain a democracy, a vibrant democracy, and then now Marcos is very much Duterte first, and then Marcos is back. Same thing with Thailand. Thailand followed at the top of the military regime, and for a long period of time they had democracy, and then gradually they lost that. The military came back, and now they have the Thaksin's family governing Thailand. Indonesia, more or less the same story. We had democracy since that. We built democracy since 1998. We had democratic elections, and somehow we are back to where we were 25 years ago, with a kind of authoritarian. We are not fully there yet, but I think the fact that Jokowi was able to put his son as vice president, and then of course you mentioned Prabowo, maybe representing the Suharto family because he was married to Suharto's daughter. We don't know yet, but there are signs that the Suharto clan is coming back to power through Prabowo. Maybe yes, maybe no, but we don't. And of course, Prabowo comes from a political family himself. His father was the great economist Sumitro Joharipusumo, and I think the entire family is, of course, his brother is a businessman, but his niece and nephews are in politics. We see that happening, and they come to power through democratic elections. Maybe not fully democratic, but they went through the process and somehow they managed to get in. So I think what they have done is basically, the question: how could democracy allow these things to happen? And what they have done is these political families adapted. They were toppled, and then there's the democracy, and they learn the rules of the game. Maybe not as quickly as they would like to, but they learn, and they learn how to beat the system. In the case of Indonesia, of course, they either build a political party or they seize an old political party and take control. Political parties are not run democratically, not in Indonesia, definitely. It's very much the power is very much concentrated in the chair. This is the same with Megawati Soekarno Putri, PDIP, Prabowo and Gerindra, Yudhoyono with the Democratic Party. And of course, Joko Widodo now, just 2 months ago, seized control of Golkar, which is the second largest party. This is going to be his political vehicle to continue to build his dynasty and to continue to be relevant in the next 5 years. Although he's not going to be the president, but he will be able to pull strings through his son Gibran as the vice president to Prabowo, and of course through Golkar. So I've lost my thoughts. Well, another thing that we have to look into is definitely in the case of Indonesia, the political families, they come and go, right? Sukarno was president, and then took many decades before Megawati came into power, and then she lost it. But she's not completely. She hasn't disappeared. She's still there. She's leading the political party, but she's not in power. Same thing with Yudhoyono. He was a military general, and then he got elected through the democratic process, and then he started to build his empire. And then he prepared his son, Agus Harimurti, to succeed him. He's already Agus Harimurti is already in charge of the political party. He's going to be a minister in the next administration of Prabowo. And of course, Joko Widodo, like Yoes already mentioned, is preparing his offspring, his children, his son-in-law to run in local elections. So they are not going to disappear. They are there. They come back to power, and then they step down, and another dynasty will come in. So they and with Indonesia, I think we have several dynasties. The Soekarno, the Suharto, Prabowo, Yudhoyono, and Widodo at the national level. Of course, with dozens and dozens at the regional levels. Indonesia is a big country, so you can be very powerful in just one particular province or even in one particular cities. But that's also dynasty politics. They are not at the national level. Soekarno, Suharto, except Suharto, right? Yudhoyono, and they're not super rich, but they have political power. And I think what political power and give you access to money. So once they're in power, I think they work with business people, and then the real power, I think, in Indonesia is not so much in the political dynasties, but actually the people with money. They're not necessarily in politics, but they have power, and this is the power of the oligarchs in Indonesia, and those in power have to. Eventually, what we have is corruption, collusion, nepotism, and cronyism, and I think that's bad for democracy. So it's really bad news. But I think maybe later we can talk about how do we overcome that. Yoes already mentioned about deepening the democracies in these countries, in Indonesia for sure.
Mas Endy, your time is up, but I need to clarify one thing. So you said that this is normalized, that dynasty is normalized, sort of like insinuating that it should not be normal, right? But please clarify. My take is you said that it's sort of like Asian values, kind of normal in Asia, and it's kind of okay as long as it's not corrupt. I agree with you that if it's not corrupt, then it's okay. But my question is, do you think it's possible for political dynasty to not become corrupt? Just a very quick clarification, was Endy.
The short answer is democracy. I'm a believer in democracy, but democracy that has effective checks and balances between the different branches, executive, legislative, judiciary, credible and strong law enforcement, and also I think the regulations have to make sure that these checks and balances are effective, and of course the most important and also even more important is the role of the press, critical and independent press, media, to inform the public that dynastism is bad, and make sure that when they go to the during the election, they make informed decisions. I think what happened in February, the media, I would say, failed to enlighten the public that and therefore I think Prabowo and Gibran won the election fair and square because they had the public opinion behind them, in spite of all the things that we are reporting about nepotism practices under President Widodo.
Okay, interesting, and I think it's a good bridge to Pana. Pana is from Thailand, where one of the most robust people's movement is born. Yeah, so to continue from what Mas Endy said, like oversight, like people can be. So if dynasty is really Asian values, I'm still like hard accepting that actually, but yeah, okay. If it is Asian values and it is something that won't go away in Asia, that dynasties will always be there. At least we have other power to monitor, to hold those power accountable. And can you share how people in Thailand do that? because I think people in Indonesia kind of not doing that very well. We did see some people movement, not weak as well, but we need more, I guess. And Thailand, I think, is like the most promising right now. So could you please tell us about what do you think about dynasties in Asia, and also how people's power can people power make them clean?
Okay. Thank you. Let me start with continue from Endy hypothesis, and actually the prototype of dynasty politics is India. Right from the days of the independence, you have the Gandhi family, and they have founded, nurture, and suffer with the Congress Party. But the Gandhi brand sells. As Andy said, the big businesses that support the Gandhi have done so over the years, and with the long, you could consider that it's a monopoly of politics, and this monopoly has a decay over time. And you see the rise of the BJP, Modi, and so on. So the prototype I would say would be India, and then and this spread over time into other countries. Whether they follow the Indian models or not is another issue. But you can see Lee Kuan Yew and the successor, Lee Hsien Loong. It's unrelated to democracy. It's about power. It's and then you see the Thailand, who has the Kenawas family. You have the Philippines, you have the Aquino, for very good reason. Cambodia now you have Hun Sen and his son Mane, but Hun Sen remains the master behind. He's a president of the Senate. And then you see Indonesia as the previous speaker have outlined, and you will see this upcoming with Malaysia, because Anwar's daughter also being groomed as his successor. So this is spreading, and this dynasty politics does not spread at a national level, but very much at provincial level. As Thailand is in Indonesia, all these local election, local MPs are now, a lot of them are family members of former politicians. So this is spreading. This is one thing that we see. And in this social media age, branding is important. So the family names and so on, and whatever they've done, is now being transferred. The goodwill that the previous politicians have magnified is now being taken over as a branding by the younger generation, and the networking, networking of these people, and so it first it's become difficult for an outsider and independent, I think, to enter politics. And this diversity affects the quality of the government, whether it's nepotism or it's professionalism and so on. So that's one thing we see. And to be fair, when we look at politics, we have to let's say divide it into three. Let's say it may be the dynasty politics, but who are eventually the elected or cabinet members, the people who runs the country? Are they part of the clans or part of the clans network, or are they appointed because they are competent? And here I would say Indonesia has mixed, because sometimes you have technocrat, sometimes you have businessmen, outsider, but you also have people close to the family. And third is the policies. So to be fair, you divide, when we look at the politics, we divide it into three things. So it's not dynasty politics, whether it's good or bad, it has other elements as equally important. So that's one thing. And the Thai case is very complex. Now we have the prime minister, who's a daughter of Thaksin Shinawatra. In the last 20 years, you say it's a success. It's actually, the country has suffered and continue to suffer from this dynasty politics because of it's money politics. So the Pheu Thai party, which is a majority here, it's financed and owned by the Thaksin family. It's not a democratic institution, that we envision as an ideal. It's in a way it's a business. It's a business because he originally came. His wealth came from concession, government concession. The politics helps you to protect or whatever, negotiate and deal with these concession issues. So the historical purposes. And now what we see is that his daughter, who is not very experienced, he has little working experience. So the most of the cabinet or people from the party are forming fortress around her, in managing her as a leader. So in a way, national interests, the policy that a normal government would carry out in terms of national interest is being refocused towards her interest, to keep her working, manageable, get good image from the public, and to manage the party, the policy, the populist policy that we all know, which Thailand is infamously for, is to keep the party in power, keep the party having option to win the next election. So where is the policies that is real national interest? This is what we are at the moment. We are suffering from this is because the policy is not focused. Indonesia, for example, it may be Jokowi. He wants to make the legacy of the new capital. So whoever comes after must get here. But whether the new capital is in the total national interest or not, that you have to determine. That the Indonesian have to determine. Here, likewise, and Thailand has cycles of army intervention, military intervention. So the democracy never manifests in terms of having the check and balances and so on. And dynasty politics happen because all these check and balances are not working. So in a way, we have a hybrid. In Asia, we have a hybrid democracy.
Yeah.
Somewhat immature. Yeah, allows all this to yeah. Okay, sorry.
Pana, please talk a little more about the people's, like you mentioned about check and balances didn't work. Really, I mean, like in Thailand.
So
in Thailand, is there any hope? I mean, from the people.
Well, the new generation thinks differently. The younger generation, we have now the move forward, which is renamed the People's Power. I think we reach in a way a point of political crisis that the new generation come up, and they run in parallel in terms of mindset to the conservative, to the old parties. But Thailand has a unique case related to lèse majesty law. So this is the part that is hindering the young generation. But if you look in terms of their structure, maybe not the party structure of the new generation, the People Party, maybe not that totally democratic, but the ability to understand the economic and the political structure of the country is there. The rigorous, the academic rigorous of understanding how the budget works, because they all come into politics because the budget is huge. You know, whether it's in the Philippines, they call it pork barrel or whatever. You distribute your power and authority comes from. So the strength of what I see of the young generation is not the political party, but it is the brain, the ability to understand that this budget doesn't work. Budget to the military, how much is wasted, could be spent on other things. The budget that you build roads, it should be transferred to education, for example. Deal with the disruption in the neighborhood. This is where the strength is, because the young generation is the outcome. The outcome rather than the obsession with power. The dynasty is obsession with power. And before anything else, before they move on nothing. But the young population, they move on. They go for the disruption, beyond the disruption. They want to prepare. They want to succeed in startup and so on. So this is where we are at. And they are popular because they deploy social media very well. I visited a digital marketing company that look after them. Every morning it comes with the font you use, the color you use, and so on. So it's very technical to win the mass. It must see green as popular. They will use green in their presentation.
So they
it gets down.
Yeah,
exactly.
They use new strategies. Yeah.
It's a new strategy to win. Okay.
Yeah.
So we are at the point where now the Thailand is the second lowest growth country. So I think we heading to a crisis point in some way, in some way or another, that may challenge this dynasty politics, which is actually is a monopolist.
Yeah. Thank you, Pana. I think Indonesia is heading to economic crisis as well, but that's for another discussion, I think. Okay, so thank you, all the speakers. Now I will open the session for questions. We have about 15 minutes actually, because I'm hoping the speakers will, in the end, will have a short closing statement. So we only have 15 minutes. I think I'll open for 2 questions first. Pariksha, do we have a? Okay.
Hi, Edi. Hello, audience. You could please post your questions in the chat or raise your hands and we can help you unmute. Meanwhile, just to get started, some audience members had sent their questions early on. And to begin with that, I'm going to start posting on the chat. The first question was, how dangerous is dynastic politics, even with people voting to their actors by will? If you'd like to direct this to a particular person, Evie, we could begin with it. I can keep posting.
I think all 3 can answer. Yeah, that's a good question. So how dangerous? I mean, if it's something that's like cannot be avoided, then do we accept it or don't, because it's dangerous? And how dangerous if it is dangerous? Use, please. Use. Can you respond? How dangerous is dynasty politics? Even when people vote their actors by their will, like you said, like you said, they vote them anyway, right? So is it dangerous?
It's very dangerous because yes, they vote by their own will, but what they have in ballot box on the ballot on the when you vote, the names on those the name on the ballot box is already shaped by the elites. It's supplied by elite concession. It's not those who are in the ballot box. They if they come from political dynasties, mostly are people who did not go through meritocratic process. What we want to have is actually in democracy, when political parties nominate someone for in the elections, the ideal situation would be those people should have proven their track record, should have proven their capabilities, should have proven their ability to organize, to get to build connection with the people. But because the process has been sped up by the elites, and the result of elite negotiation rather than organic process, then I think in the long run, I cannot think how they can connect with the people in general. They relied on patronage to win election. They relied on money politics, vote buying in the elections, and in the next 5 years in Indonesia's case, I cannot think how they can really represent the people's interests. What they're looking is how to make return to their investment in elections rather than serving the people's interests. So I think it's very dangerous in the long run. And with dynastic politics, the other danger is also it deters candidates with good background, with good track record to compete in elections, because they realize this is just an elite game. They realize that to compete in elections, it can be very costly because they have to compete against individuals with capitals, individuals with political connections, where they can mobilize the state apparatus to help their victory. So in the long run, it's very dangerous for democracy. Yes, people vote with their own will, but then again, until now, I still don't believe that majority of people have the concern how dangerous is dynastic politics is, and more importantly, this is a big homework for many democracies in Asia. If you cannot improve the economy, if people still think how to survive day by day, how can you expect people to think about complex concepts such as democracy? So that's another issue with our democracy today. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoes. Yeah, what we have in shortage is critical thinking. That's indeed. So, Mas Endy, is it dangerous? You mentioned also about like oligarchs and crony that is non-dynastic, but is it that dynasties? Is it more dangerous than the others, or as dangerous?
Well, someone posted in the chat box that America also has political dynasties, so it's not an Asian phenomenon. But the difference is, I think in the United States, at least in terms of Kennedy and Bush dynasties, they played by the rules of the game. And so there's nothing wrong per se about having political families, ruling the country. But it becomes a problem when they start to, violate the rules of the game, and the fact that they were able to manipulate and basically seize control over the other branches of the government, the legislative branch, the judiciary, even like Pana says, the use of social media. They were able to control public opinion. Now that becomes dangerous because that means they are staying in power beyond the prescribed limit, and then they're going to be there, try to be there forever. I mean, we have the history with Marcos in the past, Suharto, and Indonesia, where they ruled for a very long time and they're abuse of power. And in the past, they would use the military. Right? Today, I think probably they don't have to use the military. They use public opinion. They manipulate public opinion very effectively, and of course, they control the internet. And this is how they got into power. So it is dangerous if we, I mean, the we allow them to be in power, and then allow them to have those powers unchecked. The problem, the challenge, therefore, is basic, really, to fix the rules of the game and make sure that even if these political families are in power, they're subject to effective checks and balances. And of course, they don't stay in power forever. I mean, in Indonesia, we have the two-term limits in the constitution, which remains in place, but somehow I think President Jokowi has found a way around it by making his son as the next vice president.
Thank you, Mas Endy. Pana,
Yeah.
is it dangerous?
Yeah, it's dangerous because dynasty politics you can consider as a monopoly because of their extensive patronage, and as you said, that's the first thing. Secondly, they will manipulate the constitution, as you see in Indonesia, Bangladesh, for all own benefit. But if you look at, I go back to the India example, because of dynasty politics, and it doesn't work after a while because of the level of corruption, which meant the decline and fall of the Congress party. And so the democracy works when you have the BJP come up. There is a replacement, so it goes into decay, and new political party rises, and it works in that, whatever you think of BJP, but there is a change in government because the democratic process allow it to, because the Indians political constitution and it's a grassroots democracy. These changes are possible. But in Southeast Asia, I don't think we have that level, either because lack of numbers or whatever, to be like an Indian. So the party dynasty in power would stay for a long time without going out of business. Okay.
It's very dangerous then. Okay, let's take the second question. Uzair,
Yes,
please
I'll allow Uzair to unmute. Uzair, you should be able to unmute now. Please feel free to ask your question.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Effie. Thank you for ASEAN Dispatch. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm teaching corruption and patrimonialism at University Islam Sunan Kalijaga. And just yesterday, I taught the class about the political dynasty. And thank you, Effie, for forwarding the invitation for this discussion. So, as you know, and as already mentioned by Mas Yoes and Effie and Pak Endy, Indonesian election is very costly, and I think we have only few options for our next leaders. It could be political dynasties, it could be celebrities, or it could be someone who has been working for long for the political dynasty. So they are, provided or supplied with logistics by the political dynasty to work for the system. So there is little room left for outside these groups. I have friends who tried to run for office in the last election. They had worked quite sometimes for the Urban Core. I think Effie knows them from Urban Core Consortium, and they work with, they tried to resist the money politics. They tried to organize with the method they call it as rap, but they didn't succeed, and it was a tragic, the number of the votes that they got was very tragic, much lower than those who just recently went to the village and then give the money away. So this is one thing. Another thing is that we know from Sidal's article that says that local bossism is not coming from outside the state, because in the past there was an argument that local bossism or mafia or those who come that become the political dynasty come from outside the state. They come from the society. But the Sidal mentioned that local bossism coming from the state facilitated the emergence of local bossism, and political dynasty. And as with the political reform of decentralization, with direct election, this is just a new vehicle for the local elites to come and appropriate public resources.
Absolutely.
So,
Uzair, I'm
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. In the
Yeah.
interest of time, if you have a question, could you please
Yeah,
direct?
I have one question. If that is the case, that we have no more room, we have left few little room left for these alternative ideas, it is the time to accept the concept of benevolent ruler, where we work probably with some of the political dynasties that is still promising at some point, because there's no other room left, and probably some other political elites are doing the same for this. They try to merapat to those political dynasties. Is this concept is acceptable, or do the alternative way, like what our friends did in the past, still have promise to do in the next election? That's my question.
Yeah, where to find hope? Yeah. Is there
That's
any
right.
hope?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Let me answer this.
Yes, please.
That is wishful thinking. Okay.
Oh my
Because-
God, Pana, please.
Okay. Because the elite that circle the dynasty and work with the dynasty would not be willing to let go of the benefit that they have. This is historical.
Oh,
Okay.
so
This is historical.
you see no hope, Pana, really?
Actually, yeah, a few days ago, the Nobel Prize for Economics was awarded to the 3 professors, and this is what they said. This is I written that even if the population of non-democratic nation lack formal political power, they have a weapon that is feared by the ruling elite. There are many. The masses. It's the numbers. The numbers must win over the political obstacle. The masses and you know and this mobilization of the masses become a revolutionary threat. This is what they see as historically the only way out. And I would say in this social media, you can mobilize peacefully compared to the past. Past, you have to go to the street and so on. And the Thai context, the young parties, that they mobilize by social media. They don't go out on the street. So basically, you need a final connection between the social media mass and the final action that bring about the changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Pana. Because of the time, I'll take one other question and let Endy and Yoes to answer. Wait. Let me. Sorry that I cannot read all the questions, but I'll pick one from Zahra Imtiaz. Thank you for the question, Zahra. So, is dynastic politics cyclical, about people returning to the familiar? So is that why people vote for dynasties? Because they're familiar with the names and the Yoes maybe can answer that. Very quick, Yoes, sorry.
Yeah, first, of course, familiarity with names is one possible explanation. There's a theory of brand name in supporting dynastic successes in elections. But in the case of Indonesia, and I think it's also true in the Philippines, is how the dynastic network maintain their patronage network to the people. So they make the people dependent on them to get money, social aids, maybe build programs in their localities. So the patronage networks, I believe, is the most important explanation why dynastic politics become rooted in Asia, or at least in Southeast Asia, and in the Philippines and Indonesia. And I think also so it could be good, but what they take is more than what they give to the people. They only give like menial amount of money to the people, like every 5 years, or build low grade infrastructure, but what they take from the people is much more. So I think that's my answer, Effie.
Yeah, thank you. For Mas Endy, I think this question is perfect for you. So will this election, I assume the Indonesian election, have much impact on foreign politics, future outlook for ASEAN and beyond after Prabowo come to power? Mas Endy, what do you think about ASEAN?
Well, I think if you look at the history of ASEAN, when it was a 5-member country, there was Suharto, there was Marcos, there was Mahathir, there was Lee Kuan Yew. That was the best time for ASEAN. Unfortunately, when the Southeast Asian countries were governed by this powerful. Well, I mean, since then we have had democracies, and it's not the fact that they're authoritarian; it's the fact that they were there for a long time. They're familiar with one another. Now we have ASEAN where the leaders are changing constantly, and they're not familiar. So in that sense, I think I would say it was good for foreign policy, but it's not really necessarily good for the people in the country. This is kind of paradox, I guess, yeah? But when it comes to foreign policy, because we talk about security, defense, economic cooperation, then it's stability, and stability means having the leaders familiar with one another, and that's unfortunate. That means that dynasty is actually good for ASEAN, but not necessarily good for the people.
So ASEAN is not good for the people. That's my interpretation, sadly. So okay, I'm sorry. Not all the questions I can deliver to the speakers, but it's we're already 2 minutes over time. Quick closing statement. And use you have database. Please, closing statement. Tell us about that. Use and Mas Endy and Pana, closing statement. 1 minute as well. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll be launching a data set on Indonesia's political dynasties in this November, so watch out for that. And just for closing statement, if people think political dynasties is because of Asian value, I don't believe so. It's an essentialist argument, as mentioned by Pana, I believe. There's also political dynasties in the US and other Western countries. What I want to reiterate is political dynasty is actually symptoms of big problem. It's failure of political parties to recruit, promote, and nominate party cadres. It's pragmatism of political parties and elites to win elections, not deepening democracy. And it's also failures of academic, media, and also civil society to translate the concerning issues of democracy to a more digestible message to the broader people. And it's also a failure to improve the economy, because for elites, they use democracy to or political positions to get money, and for voters, they become dependent on patronage. So maybe that's my closing statement, Effie. And thank you once again for inviting me.
Yeah, and we're waiting for the database. Mas Endy.
Yeah, I think political dynasties is a fact of life in much of Asia. We have to accept that. The reality, not accepting the concept, but the reality is these people got voted through the democratic process, fair and square, and that's the reflection of the people's will or aspirations, that they want these people, this family, to be in power. So the challenge for us is to make sure that when they're in power, the checks and balances are effective, because there are checks and balances in the democratic political system that they're not functioning at the moment, or not functioning as effectively. I think we have to make sure that the legislative branch, the judiciary, law enforcement, and most of all, I think the media, this is where we come in, Asian Dispatch, Multatuli Project, and friends, journalist friends in the audience, it's really our job to make sure that these families, when they're in power, they're subject to effective check and balances. I think the media has a lot to answer for the failure of preventing the return of authoritarianism or semi-authoritarianism and return of these political families in power.
Thank you, Mas Endy. Pana.
Yeah, in short, I would ask everyone not to lose hope. And if you look at the success, the reasonable success of the South Korean, because they have been able to transform the country, from dynasty, army politics, and so on. And the point that in South Korea is not just the masses or the people, it's the way that the judiciary go after the corrupt, set examples that is popular. So if you want to prioritize anything related to the check and balances, I would say work on the judiciary part. Yeah, and deal with the corrupted politician. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for staying until the end, even though we were 6 minutes over time. Thank you. I'll give the forum back to Priksha or Pallavi to Asian Dispatch. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mas Endy, Yoes, and Pana. It's a very engaging discussion.
Thank you so much, Evie, Endy, Yoes, Pana. Thank you so much for your time and this very important conversation. It's been so engaging to have all of you. And I think the best part about it is the way we could cover all of Asia, how we could connect the dots around this very significant issue. We'll all be surely watching Project M's work about this and much more, and closely looking at the Indonesian elections also, and really look forward to keeping in touch with yours about the wonderful data set coming up. Thank you everyone in the audience for their time and their lovely questions. Please keep in touch for all the upcoming webinars and discussions with Asian Dispatch. We're really looking forward to keeping the conversation going. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.